Hi, my name's Mark, and I moved to this neighbourhood about 5 years ago. This is the neighbourhood I live in. It has a primary school, a high school, as well as more than one nursery school. See all these ones here. There's a small shopping centre with a takeaway and a spa. Actually, more than one takeaway. Quite a few things in the shopping centre. It's nice shopping centre. There's also this really great green belt, so green space should we call it, with the bike track. Bike track looks awesome. Thank you to those people who are doing that. And a lake with birds in it. Look, there's a lake. No, it's actually a dam with a broken wall, which we'll get to later on. When I moved here, I was told, join the RRVA. They're awesome. The guys that sold us the house said they'd been with members for a long time and it was really a good idea to join. We looked at it and said, looks like a security company that's just too expensive. I was wrong. Boy, was I wrong. I had a chat with some people in charge to find out more. I have with me Rod, the chairman of the RRVA, or Ram Park Ridge Village Association. Thank you, Rod, for taking some time out and having a chat with me.
You're welcome, Mark.
Can you tell me about the RRVA, when it started and why?
Yes, Mark, it's a non-profit residents association which was started for the benefit of the residents of this area. It was about 20 years ago that it was started.
What was the reason behind the guys starting it?
I think it was largely concerns about security, but also the state of the environment. This green belt that you see used to be in an atrocious condition. There were squatters living here, people would dump illegally, and one of the things that the RRVA has always done is to take care of the green belt, remove litter, remove illegally dumped building rubble. We also remove alien species, and we work closely with Johannesburg City Parks to have the park mown and maintained. When there are infrastructure problems, we notify the council. I sometimes write engineering reports describing the problem and why it's so urgent and why it needs to be fixed and how it needs to be fixed. And then there's just a tedious process of following up with the council and badgering them until they eventually fix that piece of infrastructure. Just behind us here, I pointed out a stormwater drain which has formed sinkholes underneath the joints. And there's a concrete channel in the stream where just before it goes underneath the bridge, underneath Rand Park Drive, which is breaking up. We've got a dam with problems in Hymany Park, Hymany Dam, and we've got some culverts in the area which urgently need rehabilitation. And those sort of things, we work with the council, we liaise with the council, and we do our best to get them fixed as soon as possible. Yes, I've been a member personally for about 17 years, although I only got involved with the committee and then became a director in the last 3 years. And we've embarked on many projects over the years. You'll notice all the green palisade fencing around the parks. Those palisade fences were put in by the RRVA. We've put in some access control gates. There's one at Essenhout, near a place called Muggers Alley. There's one at the top of Rand Park Drive, and there's several into the parks and in the fences surrounding the parks. Those were all done by the RRVA. We've put up some sponsorship boards to get sponsorship. We've installed the pedestrian pathways many years ago before I was involved. Many things like that.
What are the various committees in the RRVA and what do they do?
Now there's a security committee. Most people in our area, their foremost concern and interest is security. So that's where we've spent the lion's share of our money. And we've got a security committee which is headed up by Barrett Stewart. He's a security expert. He works in the security field. And under that security committee is a care committee. And this is a committee of compassionate ladies who identify members in our community who are suffering in some way. Maybe they've had a traumatic experience or a bereavement or financial hardship, and the idea is to give them some compassionate nurturing and care. And then we have an environmental committee that I'm on with Stephen Sudi, where we maintain the parks, we organize removal of alien vegetation, removal of illegally dumped rubble, we clean up litter all the time, and we cut back overgrowth and bush and foliage and stuff like that. And of course, reporting on infrastructure problems, that's another function. And then there's a committee called the Social PR Advertising and Promotion Committee, and they do all of those things. It's like a catch-all committee for all those functions. Primarily what we're focusing on now is generating income for the organization, trying to recruit new members, which is very difficult in these times. We've just lost about 130 members this year, mostly I think due to economic hardship. And they're looking at ways of generating income from sponsorships and advertising, and also to try and generate some interest and to build a sense of community within this neighborhood. We've been having some evening seminars and some guest speakers, and we've got a very strong social media platform, or several social media platforms, where we try to encourage people to participate and to speak to each other. You know, one of the great things that helps a community in every way is when people start speaking to each other. Unfortunately, we live in a culture where we've sacrificed community and social interaction with money and technology. So we're trying to get that back, and the social committee's got plans as soon as the lockdown's really over, to get people actively involved in things like spring walks and cleanups and things that make them talk to each other and meet each other.
How many people do you have involved in the committees in total, would you say?
Well, we've got 2 directors only. That's a problem. We should have 5 directors. We can't function effectively with 2 directors. So it's myself and Heather Mannion. Heather is our Chief Financial Advisor. And then we've got about less than 10 committee members. These are volunteers who serve on the various committees. But we always need more help. Many hands make light work. So if you're interested and you'd like to dedicate your time, we can't pay people, unfortunately. It's all voluntary. We desperately need help, please.
Could we say all the people that have problems in the area should apply and join and come and help?
Well, we'd love it if they did. Yeah, you don't have to join a committee in order to get your problems resolved. We'll try and help you even if you're not on the committee. But if you're willing and able to assist with the solution to your problem, that'll make it much more effective.
Can you say anything about the budget for each committee?
Well, historically, the security element has had about 80 to 85% of the budget, and recently it's been even higher due to the loss of members. The other committees, with the exception of the Enviro, don't really have a budget. We've got 2 employees who work 3 days a week cleaning our parks and maintaining them, and obviously that's a fixed monthly cost. But apart from that, the committees have virtually no budget. A lot of our committee members pay for expenses out of their own pockets. It is theoretically possible for committee members to be paid. Directors are not allowed to be paid. That's a rule in our MOI, our Memorandum of Incorporation. We decided that directors should never be paid. But we did once pay a committee member to do an extraordinary task. But currently no committee members are being paid. Nothing whatsoever.
And the profits, RRVA, does it make?
Well, it's a non-profit organization. We are an NPO. We're a Section 18A non-profit organization, which entitles the members to a tax certificate where they can use pre-tax money to pay for their contribution to the RRVA. So strictly speaking, no, we don't make a profit, but from year to year, we sometimes generate a surplus. We have in the past, but in the last 3 years, we've run at a loss each year. So we have rapidly ate into the capital, and at the moment the capital's not looking very healthy at all. Yes, a public benefit organization is an organization which benefits the community and it benefits the nation. And because you're making a donation to a non-profit that benefits the nation, SARS gives you a tax break. It says, well, if you can prove to SARS that you made this donation, we can give you a tax certificate, and you can use that tax certificate to claim that donation prior to tax being taken off. So you pay with pre-tax money. But its purpose is other than to benefit the individual. So we walk a tightrope here. It's a terribly difficult balancing act to follow, because the member's not in a position to dictate what the organization does with the money. The member donates it as you would donate money to any charity, for the charity to use as it sees fit. So our members can't make a donation and then say, I insist that you do X, Y, and Z to benefit me personally, or I'm going to take my money back because you haven't done what I expected you to do with the money. But at the same time, you've got a problem of the free rider, because as economic times become harder and harder, more and more people say, well, I'm not going to donate money to this organization anymore because I don't have to. Nothing's going to happen to me, and in fact I'll still benefit from the services. But that creates a problem with other people who look at this and say, well, why must I keep on donating if 7 of my neighbors who live right next to me are benefiting and I'm only getting 1/7? And in some cases it can reduce in residents associations to 1/20. So in other words, for every one person who donates, 19 people go along for a free ride. And eventually there have been studies done by experts like Jeremy Lent, whereby they put 2 volunteers in a room and they play a game, and one of the things that happens in the game is somebody comes with a $100 note, and he says, gives it to the first person, and he says, well, you can decide how much of this $100 note to split with the person that you've never met in another room. And if he agrees to it, we'll give you both that share. But if he disagrees, you both get nothing. And traditionally, people tend to say, well, let's go 50-50. But what happens is when people become greedy and they say, well, I'm going to take 90 and only give him 10, then the recipient in the other room says, you know what, I'm going to forsake my 10 to make sure that he doesn't get his 90. And that becomes a problem in a public benefit organization. And I think a lot of public benefit organizations, residents associations in South Africa, are particularly vulnerable right now because of that. If everybody became a member, this place could be a utopia. We could really do some spectacular things in the neighborhood. But unfortunately, the cake's only so big, and we have to divide it as best we can. And traditionally, security's been the number one concern. You know, there was a guy by the name of Giuliani who was a mayor of New York, and he had a policy called the broken window policy. And basically what that policy said is that if you pay attention to small details in fighting crime, you reprimand people for jaywalking, you get broken windows fixed, and you take exception with people for petty offences, then the big offences go away, and it seems to work pretty well. The trouble with a residents association, if you let it slip, it only takes one person to dump a load of rubble in your park illegally, and other people notice that pile of rubble and they say, oh gee, that pile of rubble's been there a week, I'll just add mine to it. And before you know it, your park is just a mess, and it becomes almost impossible to pull it back. It takes extreme resources to pull it back into order. Whereas if you keep something and you maintain it in tip-top condition, it doesn't degenerate. The moment you have rubble dumped illegally in the park and people's garden refuse thrown over the wall into the park, the whole status of the park just drops. And you find that the squatters and the vagrants will move in, and the residents will stop using the park because they will perceive it as being dangerous, and your whole suburb goes down. The values of the property go down. So it is in the interests of the members and the residents here to support the RRVA to maintain those things, and not only to focus on security matters.
Next, I decided to have a chat with Quinton, who is part of the security committee. This seems to be the greatest concern for members. Hi, Quinton.
Hello, Mark.
Are you only involved in the security committee?
No, actually not. When I joined about 6 months ago, I think the major issue was the security, and there's a couple of things that we needed to restructure and redo. So I got involved with that. I've got a bit of technical expertise that I lent to the security committee in putting together a tender. But other than that, I'm actually on the marketing committee, the PR social marketing committee. We are not a security company. I think that's generally a misconception. We are a company or an organization that looks after, or I would rather say that manages the output of the security company. Our primary role is to evaluate the security companies in the area, their performance, and hold them accountable to do certain tasks for the RRVA by monthly meeting, where we then get a report from the security company, and we evaluate their performance through the month. We look at past issues that took place over the last two weeks or month, or continuous issues which they report on. We get reports from if they walk the green belt or not, and things like that. So that's primarily what we sort of get the security company that's involved in the area to do certain tasks for us, like locking the gates as well.
Okay, if someone is a member of the RRVA, do they get armed response?
To an extent, yes. So if they're a member of the RRVA, because we have the contracted EC security in the area, which previously was CSS, every one of our members get a call in armed response service. So they would be able to, if something happened, be able to call the local vehicle, which will then go out and assist them accordingly. So that's the difference between being a member of the RRVA and not this EC security or the security company, or just the security company itself, is that you have automated armed response, right, where an alarm is triggered and people will come out automatically through a radio signal being sent back to their control room. So that's the sort of difference. Yes, you do have armed response, but you got to call in for that service.
What is the arrangement with your security provider in this area? What do you make sure they do? You've mentioned that you hold them accountable for certain things. What are they supposed to do in the area?
So they're supposed to walk the green belt a certain amount of times a week. They're supposed to lock and unlock the gates in the area on the green belt sections at Harmony Park and down there at Esnote. They need to drive the area constantly. And these sort of things we track with GPS trackers to make sure that the guys are actually doing it, right? So that's predominantly what they need to do. There's some other things that we also ask of them. So if they drive through the suburb in the evening and they see a stormwater drain broken, or a street light broken, or something that's of the infrastructure that's not 100%, so then they'll report that and to our office, or just send a mail to our office, and then we'll log the calls to the municipality.
You belong to two committees, so it's the security, you've mentioned quite a bit on the security, and then the marketing. What are you guys doing to market the RRVA in our area?
So the marketing committee is a little bit more than just marketing to the people in the area. We're trying to, we hope that people understand who the RRVA is, so that they could actually join by themselves at this current stage. We don't have physical or actual committee members that go out and sell it. So because just of time constraints. But one of the things that we do from a marketing perspective is we're trying to enhance the product, in effect, right? So a lot of people previously thought that the RRVA is a security committee, looking after the people in the area, which is not correct. So, but then they also pose the question, what did the RRVA do, right? And it was so difficult to show differences and things that we've embarked on and changes that we've made to the area, because 90% of the funds were going to the security component, right? So we literally just stayed afloat for the last couple of months. So I joined about 6 months ago, and the idea was to start a partner network, something that would give our members extra value. So we've spoken to a lot of manufacturers and suppliers throughout our area and extended area, and to allow them to buy certain products or services through them, at discounted rates, because we've got a massive buying power in the area of 1,150 houses. So the idea would be to get somebody like EC Security potentially on board, which we are voting in at the end of the month, hopefully, that our members would be able to get discounted armed response through them. And currently they would be saving about 100 Rand a month, which is quite substantial, about 25% saving. Then we'll look at partners like Tafelberg Furnitures, a couple of other furniture companies that we're looking at, speaking to. There's a couple of companies that we're speaking to, trying to see if we can offer some discount to our members in various places.
Thanks very much. Thanks again to the guys who had to chat with me. It was really, really informative. And I hope you guys watching this have learned something as well. I think it's about time I handed in my application. I think I need to really be part of this. Cheers.
Mark, I would just like to appeal to the members to take ownership of your community. I believe one of the biggest threats to a residents association is the prominent belief amongst residents that saving your community is somebody else's responsibility. It isn't. It's each and every one of us has a responsibility, and the more we get involved, the better the community will become, the more the community will flourish. So I would really challenge people who've never been involved before to get involved. Join a committee, or even just pick up the phone or send a WhatsApp message and say, these are my skills, this is my skill set. I'm a lawyer, or I'm a biologist, and I can help, read your legal documents and advise you on legal matters, or I can advise you which alien trees to take out of the park and in what order to do it. That sort of help is very, very much appreciated. Please get involved.